Our next speaker, Lumay Wang, is a senior. She's majoring in international relations and art history. Now, true to her major, she'll be talking about how the visions that we hold at the heart of our national identities can also be seen as products of the vision that is in our eyes. This is an important concept. She has fused her passions together for art and international politics and put them through the lens of the Shanghai World Expo in 2010. And she's about to show us, if Brandon perked up your ears, she's about to put your sights into a new level of sharpness. Lumay, take it away.
Tonight, I'm going to talk to you about how those in political power, political elites, use visual culture to manipulate us. They convince us, the mass audience, of certain viewpoints. It can construct power, value, and learning of knowledge. We are constantly being manipulated by visual culture. We're constantly being manipulated by political elites to believe certain things, especially when it concerns national identity. Truly, my talk tonight should be called The Politics of National Identity. But I wanted to show you how these things play out in the visual. So in the couple minutes that I have, I want to show you how nations visually communicate their identities, how they brand themselves. In other words, nation branding. And how this process omits parts of a country's politics, culture, and history. By using visual cues, I'm going to show you that the visual is never objective, and that it constructs value, power, and desire. These 2 points, the lack of objectivity and the construction of abstract ideas, both are fundamental to nation branding. But what is visual culture? If you think about culture as an umbrella under which you find language, traditions, values, visual culture falls under that. It's any medium in which the visual component is integral. Let me say that again. It's any medium in which the visual component is integral. So it encompasses advertising, architecture, films, cartoons, art, fashion, and even the internet. But tonight I'm going to talk about 2 types of visual culture, maps and exhibition display. Let me convince you that maps are not objective and that they manipulate you. Now think about the first time you ever set foot on Tufts campus. Remember how the campus was completely foreign to you? Well, if I handed you an official map of Tufts campus, you would not question it. You would follow it because it would take you to Ben Detson Admissions Hall or Cabot Auditorium. We trust maps to find our way, to find our location. We trust them because they are objective. But beneath this veneer of objectivity, maps are highly manipulative. Maps are not mimetic, meaning they don't imitate the world exactly. They're representations of the world. And inherently in representation, there's a viewpoint. And viewpoints have certain aims or ideologies. So, here's a map of the 2010 Shanghai Expo. So before Ben mentioned the Shanghai Expo, who here has been to it or heard of it? Oh, actually a fair amount of you. Surprising. Well, the Expo is a huge event. Tens of millions of visitors visited it, and 192 nations participated. The site of the Expo is twice the size of Monaco. So I really relied on this map to get me around. But I'm going to show you the representations of 2 countries and how the politics of visual culture play out. So on the left, we have the USA Pavilion, and on the right is the China Pavilion. Now, China's really bright, it's bold. You have to pay attention to it because it calls attention to itself. But the US is really drab, gray. We can barely make out the shape because there are all these other images covering it. Now, the map is produced by the Shanghai Expo Bureau, which has close ties with the Chinese government. I'm going to argue that this map is not objective. It's leading me, the visitor, to think subtly that some countries hold more power or are more important. You right now are reading political elite cues. Ask yourself, what are the identities of these countries? And are they accurate? Another type of visual culture we can talk about is exhibition display. So like maps, exhibition display can also change the way we see things. Exhibition display, or how something is displayed, can construct value and desire because it modifies how we see things. Display can also be controlled by political elites. So it can also have certain aims. It has a huge impact on nation branding. I took these two photos at the Shanghai Expo, and I think it really sums up how nations brand themselves, their identities, using exhibition display. So on the left is a chocolate display in the Belgium pavilion, and on the right is the main atrium of the Italy pavilion. So in this chocolate display, you have this truffle elevated on a pedestal. It's got its own boutique light, special glass casing. This everyday food has been elevated to art. And in the Italy pavilion, you have these giant, domineering mannequins wearing Versace gowns. Now, all the pavilions at the expo, 192 of them, are controlled by government delegations. And these displays say something about the represented country. So for Belgium, it's that chocolate is art. Chocolate is to be desired because you can't possess this. I mean, physically, there's a barrier between you and this delicious truffle. And then for Italy, it's the joy of living. It's la dolce vita. And that's characterized by luxury consumer goods. But Belgium and Italy have very complex national identities. Belgium is regionally divided based on what language you speak. Italy, there's a huge divide between north and south. But you don't see any of this at the expo. You don't see anything about the politics within the country. These identities are oversimplified because these countries feel this need to brand themselves. They're not organic. They're romanticized. Given China's recent political and economic rise and the recent financial crisis, the expo affords a huge opportunity for all these 192 nations to promote themselves, their companies, and their products to a huge potential consumer base. So hopefully more Chinese people now are going to buy Belgian chocolate, and more of them will buy Italian designer clothing. Visual culture, when controlled by political elites, has specific aims. And here it's to promote the brand of the country, so you can increase exports, although they do it by different exhibition means. Your taste as the viewer has been influenced by exhibition display. Your taste as the viewer has been modified by visual culture, and your taste has been manipulated by these foreign delegations. I've only used the Shanghai Expo as a case study today, but countries do this all the time. It's not propaganda. It's more subtle than that. And the scary thing is that groups and organizations do this too. Next time you walk into Campus Center, take a look at the photos on either side of the stairwell across from Info Booth. They're photos of the Tufts campus. Actually, next time you walk into a museum or a retail store, take a closer look at the displays. Ask yourself, what are the representations being pushed? And what is it trying to make me believe or do? Visual culture constantly surrounds us, and we have to be cognizant of the power structures behind it. That way we can really understand how our world functions. Thank you.